Next is from William Molina Jr. Subject is go into business for themselves. Good afternoon, K100. My question for Disco and Conan. Have you ever had a wrestler go into business for themselves in the ring with you? And also, have you ever had a wrestler go into business for themselves where you're an agent or booker? What would happen if a wrestler ever went into business for themselves? I just been stiffed a couple times, like, not a lot. We spoke about a couple things like earlier in the mailbag. The guys go into business for themselves. They usually get, they get punished. This is something you just didn't see this a lot at the level that I wrestled at. You wrestled when you're at the level like WCW, WWE. You don't see a lot of wrestlers go into business for themselves because you're risking your career and livelihood from the pushback you're going to get for doing it, and it's just something that
and heat in the locker room.
Right, it's just something that you just don't see guys do. And like if there are cases, they're very few and far between. Like perfect example, the freaking remember when Sammy busted open Matt Hardy with the chair, and he was like off TV for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. That you usually get taken off TV, So you don't go to business for yourself, right? Next one, Theodore Roberts. Subject is Joe Feeney.
Wait a minute. Unless it's bad.
Hey guys, I was just curious. I've listened since episode 1. Joe came in around episode 30, and obviously his role and persona has changed a few times. I like what Joe does a lot, what he adds, how he helps move things along sometimes, or is information you guys don't have. My question is, between working for Conrad, getting on with Jericho, co-hosting with Raven, and so on, did either of you guys see that kind of future for Joe beyond the show? Are you surprised he's gotten these kinds of opportunities, and what is your present opinions on Joe and what he brings to the show? Also for Joe, I've heard you say in the past podcasting was kind of a random accident. How do you feel about where you stand today, and do you have any regrets? And where would you like the whole podcasting thing to lead for you? A job in wrestling? Working with more different shows? I'm teary-eyed because I kind of look at you as a role model, starting with no experience and moving up to where you are today. A lot of aspiring podcasters would love to have the kind of path you've been on. This is from Teddy Roberts from Seattle, Washington. Okay. I'm gonna
Let me say this. Let me just say this. Let me just say this real quick
to see if this is a burner for a Joe Feeney burner account.
Right.
Okay.
I need you, Teddy Roberts. I need you, Teddy Roberts, to send me your address because I'm gonna send you a mail. What do you call these? Drug testing kit. Okay. And I want it back within 2 days because you've got to be whatever the Burning Man was on.
Joe, what do you see your podcasting future?
What do you want to be
like, Joe? Really like.
Well, he wants an answer, dude. You got to have some sort of vision.
He's gonna have Joe Rogan. Joe's gonna be so famous in podcasting that Joe Rogan's gonna appear on his show.
Yeah,
right. He's gonna get rid of us. Right. He's gonna get rid of us, and because we're holding him back or down somehow, and he's going to be the next Joe Rogan. But what do you got, Joe?
I think I'm super comfortable just doing what I'm doing now, which is with you guys and with Raven. I think it's actually the fact that this show has become more and more successful has actually made me kind of lazy, because I don't have to try to do outside things to make enough money or whatever. So I'm good with this right now. The future, I don't know. I'll probably just keep podcasting until it turns into the next thing, whether it's YouTube shows or whatever, and just see where it goes.
Oh boy,
I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, where can this go? We're just recording a podcast.
I know, right?
It's like where's the arc on this? It's like
hopefully someday there's some kind of situation that would be as interesting as this is.
Or if we get a Spotify deal, maybe and get like a $1 million deal with Spotify.
There we go.
The next thing. Next is from Gabriel Constantinescu. The subject is WWE pandering. Oh boy, you know where this one's going. Hello, K100 crew. Gabriel from Romania here. First of all, thank you for reading my last question. Find it interesting, even though you wrongfully suspended me for claiming Iyo Sky is the best female worker today.
She is.
Recently, WWE's booked Gunther against Mustafa Ali for the IC title at Night of Champions. It's clear the only reason he's being pushed is because the event is in Saudi Arabia. Even though Ali is not Saudi, he's a devout Muslim. What about the new Indian tag team that just debuted, Indus Sher? Nick Khan just announced a live event in India in September. This can't be coincidence, right? My question is, what do you think of the WWE's tactic of pushing random jobbers who are not over right before an international event because they're ethnic and then abandon them immediately after? Isn't that approach kind of racist? I know us wrestling fans from the third world countries love mainstream stars like Roman, Cena, and Lesnar. Why not just take time to get these guys over first? Thanks. P.S. It was funny to see Conan act surprised that Iyo was so over in Puerto Rico. Maybe think why they dropped the ball with her in Mexico.
No,
Ooh,
no, no.
You
Let me
took
explain.
a shot at
Let
your
me
booking there, Conan.
let me explain something to you, Gabriel.
With Iyo Sky.
Right.
Right.
Let me explain something to you, Gabriel. When Iyo Sky came to AAA, she came with her sister, okay? And she was in the first year of wrestling. She was mega green. There was no way anybody would know if she would be this good. And I will double down on this. She is not the best worker in the world today. And she is very good, but she's not the best worker, and she lacks charisma. And don't tell me she doesn't.
Yeah.
As far as this guy saying, like, the only reason Mustafa's being pushed is because the events in Saudi Arabia and stuff, that might be true, but you're watching pro wrestling where it's always been that way. In the early days, WWE had Bruno for the Italians, had Pedro for the Hispanics. Vince Sr.
Yeah, but I think what he's alluding to, Joe, is that Bruno always was pushed. They didn't push him to go to Italy, and then when they came back, but these guys they're pushed. They go to India, and then after they forget about him, is what he's saying, which has happened.
That's what they did with Jinder. They gave Jinder the big shot, allegedly because they were going to have that tour of India or whatever, you know.
Right, and he actually got over, and then they dropped him.
Tanescu there's nothing wrong with this. Okay, you go to Canada, the Canadian wrestlers are over huge. That doesn't mean just because you're doing a 4-5 loop in Canada where they're going to be over huge doesn't mean you're pushing these. You're giving them the belt to go on the tour. It's like just people, ethnic wrestlers in the countries of their ethnicity are usually more over than they are, as opposed to being in the American audience. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just like when you go overseas, the foreign wrestlers are going to be more over. That's just common sense. It's not racist. I think it's absurd.
I think his point. It's borderline racist to use somebody just to get on board in his country, and when you come back, you don't use them again. It's like if all of a sudden they gave a push. You know how they're going to Mexico now? They gave a push to Humberto Garza because they're going to Mexico, and then after they came back to Mexico, they never did anything with him again. That is borderline.
That's not racist.
Yeah, it is.
You're literally giving the guy a brief push. Like burying the guy all the time.
I'm not going to argue with you, bro. You're a white guy, so you would have
It's not racist.
So
it's like
it
it's
is
absurd to say that it's racist. You're still like, hey, we're going to India. We got an Indian guy. Well, let's push him. They're going to be over huge.
Okay, and then when we come back, we never do anything with him again until we go back to India.
Well, I mean, how many times did you give guys opportunities to get over, and they're not getting over, except when they go to play?
Jinder Mahal got over. Jinder Mahal got over.
Yeah, but then sort of. I mean, we thought
he wasn't. He didn't have, bro. He had an incredible heat, and we even said it. We said,
I'm not,
bro.
But you can't sit there and tell me that the rest of the people thought this guy was over. Like he was getting a lot of heat for the rest of the internet wrestling community. He can't work.
If you would have kept pushing him strong, he would have gotten over.
I'm not
but
saying
they stopped it.
But I don't think it's racist. The guy was kind of green in the ring. I mean, you can't sit there saying the guy had no flaws. That's all I'm saying. I just think the racism tab on this is kind of like it's an easy go-to. It's like, don't you think that's racist? No, it's not racist. It's like, let's dissect this guy's career. He's not really that over. We tried a bunch of things with him. It's not, we're going to India? Well, he's going to be over in India.
He's not that over. He was he had the most heat of any heel. How you can say he's not over? He had excellent. I even said it. I don't like Jinder Mahal, but he's over and he looks great. I think he got on the juice or something. He looked incredible. He was tall. He was big. He could speak English. He had it going on, dude.
And he got a push, and he was a world champion. It's very difficult for you to tell me that it's racist that they stopped his push when they gave him the belt. It's like, that's it. Racist would be people that have just been held down. They've and because of their race. Okay, but
no. He's saying that he's all right. Well, whatever. I'm not. I think it is, but go ahead, Joe. What?
No, I'm just saying with Zack Ryder, they always did something cool for him in Long Island or New York, but the rest of the year he wasn't really on WWE.
Right, they didn't push him. He was over too.
Yeah. Right.
That's way is that
racist?
That's way different than what we're talking about.
How? Yeah. What if he was if he was black under completely same circumstances? People say, "Oh, that's racist." It's like, well, wait a second. You're going to change the skin color of the guy, and it's one instance is racist and the other isn't, just because of the skin color. If that's bro, you gotta show me racism other than like that. If that's the evidence of the racism, that's you gotta show me more than that. You know.
We've been years and years and years on the show talking about it, bro. For you to come at me at that angle, it's like all white
I just
guys
don't
have
see
had,
it.
and I don't give a fuck. I'm not bitter. I don't give a fuck. You've had all the privileges in the judicial system, in the law, in the legislative, and everything. It's always been a white-owned, white-controlled thing. And so anytime anybody brings anything up, is, oh, no, that's not racist. That's not racist. It isn't racist to you because you've never really felt racism. Have you?
No, but I've seen
Okay, I have.
racism. I've seen you don't have to be a certain color to see racism where it exists. Perfect example. Next mailbag question about Booker T. Would you say Booker T's career has been mired by racism, or did Booker T get over on his merit? Is Booker T a better performer than Mustafa Ali based on skill level, interviews and stuff? Would you say over the course of, like, if you had the two of them at these points in career, would you? Okay,
Booker and Mustafa, I would pick Booker.
Okay,
sure.
because of his talent. It's like some guys are just not as talented, don't have that it factor, and like sometimes it's like,
bro, he's one of the very few guys that at that time got over as an African American, because I can tell you, bro, I talked to a lot of Latinos and blacks, and they used to tell me that back in the day, and of course you're gonna say, oh yeah, where's the proof? Well, they told me that's proof enough for me. That promoters would always say, hey, you know, they would consider a black guy or a Latino as a gimmick match, and they only had one per territory.
Well, how long ago is
that? Was before our time, before our time.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
When I first came into the business, I remember the first day I got in there, there was this referee, I forgot his name, Rocky King was his name. Rocky King, and he had told me that Ric Flair had said some stuff about him that was derogatory, and Michael Hayes had said some stuff about, and I think he either punched Michael Hayes or he got in his face, and he ended up getting fired the same day I got hired, you know? And so, bro, there's always been racial. You can't tell me no.
Here's the next. Well, we could argue that another day. Next is from John.
No, we can't. We could argue that every day, and it's the same. There was a lot of racial before our time. A lot more. There's still some today. It's still subtle. It's still subtle, but there's some still today. Not as much as before. Not even half as much as before. But go ahead.
Here's my final thing on this thing. Mustafa Ali is not that over. They're giving him a push because they're going over India, and he is a Muslim, and he's going to be over in front of a large Muslim crowd. When he comes back, we come back to the States, he's probably not going to get pushed as much, and probably back to square one. But I would just say that racism has nothing to do with that. That's all I would say. I just think it's the fact that they've been pushing this guy and he hadn't got over, and this is a place where he will be over. I'm questioning whether it's racism.
Okay, that's a good point.
That's a good specific case.
That's a good point.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a good point.
All right, so next is from John Kamapa. Subject Booker T says, this will be the last one because I got to run here. Hey guys, a few days ago this podcast, Booker T was talking with the great Brad Gilmore about the potential return of Bray Wyatt to WWE. Booker T said Bray Wyatt's biggest problem is...
Who's Brad Gilmore?
He's the guy that does a podcast with Booker. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Booker T said Bray Wyatt's biggest problem isn't the character stuff, it's the crowd reactions. It is the physical and mental health stuff. He said that Bray Wyatt's biggest problem is the fact that Bray Wyatt simply does not have good matches. Booker said that wrestlers don't want to work with him because it means 2 to 3 month buildup of a match that 9 times out of 10 lets the fans down, and then Wyatt seemingly wants to pass the blame on to others. I know that K100 spoke about how the money is made before the match and drawing fans is more important than the moves done during a match, but I'd love to know what you guys think about Booker T's comments, and can any of you name a good Bray Wyatt match?
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. Bray Wyatt does have kind of weird
bad matches. He had a bad match with Randy Orton. He had a bad match. Randy Orton doesn't have bad matches. He had one with him.
And he's got that move where he shoots you into the ropes and dives and gives you a body block. Okay, like he hits you, he like dives at you and hits you. Bro, that doesn't feel good. Okay, so it's like I know guys are looking at that, and that's one of his moves, and they're like saying like, "All right, I'll take it," but it's like that's a move that hurts. You know, you're running and diving your 300-pound body into my midsection. It's like, you know,
bro, it's a shame because if this guy could have really good wrestling matches, and I don't mean 5-star classics. You don't have to have a 5-star classic, but really good matches, he'd probably be one of the biggest names in the industry. You know, because his gimmicks
wrestle like the Undertaker. The Undertaker's gimmick was brawler. He threw a lot of punches. He did the one gimmick thing, the old school thing, and he had the power bomb and the tombstone pile driver.
Tombstone.
And look at all, and look at
not a
Glenn,
lot of stuff, right?
Glenn, and look at all the old school wrestlers that weren't that good, but they had a great gimmick, like Abdullah the Butcher, the Sheik. You know,
Right.
Talking about Indian
Right.
guys, Tiger Jeet Singh. These did nothing, but everything they did, the other guy sold it for them, and they were believable characters, and the people invested in them. But they weren't having great matches. You know, if you're talking about work rate, if you're talking about work rate, but the heat was there.
Right. And plus, the problem with Bray Wyatt is, as good as his character stuff is, there is always the dirt sheet community, Mark podcasts or something, are always going to have kind of like a negative outlook on how his match is going to be, because they're always just assuming it's going to suck. And that's a black cloud that he has hanging over. So you would think maybe go back down to NXT and go back down to school for a month or two and try to improve your work. You know, I mean, like, I don't know.
What's that? His gimmick is, but not just that. His gimmick shouldn't even be wrestling. His gimmick should be, you know what I'm saying, like brawling and mauling, and just a whole different,
Right.